Hey guys, it's Sai. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. Here at the channel, you can find podcast interviews, content on a variety of subjects, including football, mental health, films, wrestling, music, and more. You can keep up to date with what's going on Ace Podcast Nation Twitter page, which is at ACEcast_nation. You can find us on Facebook. All our content goes up on YouTube first, so be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we upload videos. Today's show's on football, and I'm thrilled to have another ex-footballer and Cardiff City legend join me, the man which gave me the greatest night out I've ever had. So on that note, welcome to ex-Middlesbrough, ex-Cardiff, ex-Halifax, Mr. Andy Campbell. Thanks for joining me.
Si. My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
Yeah, we'll get to that goal in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just before we go, so we just talked a little bit about it off air, but so yeah, we obviously today there's been a video of Paul Gascoigne struggling again, and like it's just one of those things. Like we were just saying, is he seems like he's screaming out for someone to help him, and like you said to the tweet that you'd put up about it earlier, a lot of people were saying sort of, oh, he's past help, you can't help him, he needs to help himself. But I mean, you know, while he's still alive, people have got to try and help him. And I think like it's almost like you're waiting for this news headlines or radio or Sky Sports News where something's happened to him. And like from a personal point of view, he's one of my heroes. But just from a humane point of view, he's a human being. Mm-hmm. I'd rather him be able to get the help and get healthy. And, the only headline we have about his death is in 20 or 30 years' time when he's died of old age.
Yeah. Well, he's a dad as well. He's a dad, he's a friend, he's an ex-colleague of mine. He's a hero of mine. I worshipped him before I played with him. And I read some of the tweets what I'm getting back, and he's beyond help. He's had loads of help. How many more chances does he want? This is obviously another cry for help that he needs. And if people are going to ignore the cry for help, then it's only going to end up in one way. And you wouldn't, like you said, a humane thing. You wouldn't enjoy. You wouldn't want it on your worst enemy. He's a genuinely lovely fella. You know what I mean? He's had his addictions. He's had his issues. He doesn't look very well. But you've got to give him an opportunity to get it right, and hopefully someone gives him a chance and picks him up from the gutter, because, like you say, one day it's going to be too late, and if you're not careful, it's going to be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I mean, it's my opinion that anyone with sort of mental health issues or addiction issues is that they're never beyond help. It's never too late.
Yeah.
Obviously, if they hurt someone or they break the law or things like that, that's slightly different. But generally, I believe that it's never too late. But every time I see like a news story or a video of him or something over the last sort of 5-10 years, probably longer, my heart just drops, because everyone who I've spoken to says like he's just such a nice guy and he would do anything for anyone.
Yeah, he is.
To see him struggling like that. And I mean, it must be even worse for people like you who know him and played with him. It must be heartbreaking to watch. But I mean,
well, as I say, to play with him and see, he was like a big kid when you played with him, and he was a lovely fella, do anything for you, always the life and soul of the party, because that's just the way he was. And he's still doing that now, but in a different way, and he's looking for attention. The things what he was asking for in the video, yes, wrong, but he can see himself. He's not in his normal state. He's obviously very drunk. He's confused. His mental state's not great. He walked into a restaurant apparently, and Harry Redknapp saved him. And just hope that other people just follow suit and keep doing it. I know the PFA now getting involved, because it was a tweet that Don Hutchinson wrote, and the PFA tweeted back. So hopefully someone can reach out to him and get hold of him and put him somewhere where he's safe, and he's going to get the help that he thoroughly needs and deserves, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I spoke to Willie Boland the other day, like I said to you earlier, and we did a show on sort of mental health and sport. It was more about like the pressures on sort of younger players, but I also did show with a lady called Tracy, who's a sports psychologist. And one of the things that we were speaking about is like young players who are sort of 14, 15, or have been in the academies since they were 7 or whatever, and then they get to like 15 and the clubs just drop them. And she was saying about a lot of them can have sort of mental health issues from that, because they only know they've had all their focus all their life on being a footballer, and then they've suddenly been told they're not good enough, whereas the clubs obviously are looking for the first team players or next superstar, and with it, if they've forgotten about it by the end of the conversation, whereas the players it can have an impact on. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got players who have played football for 15 years or less if they have an injury which ends their career, and they retire. And I was trying to find out like what sort of things what's in place to help these players when they finish. So obviously you'd know more about that, but like things like the PFA or the clubs they finish with.
Yeah. Well, the PFA plays a big role. You know what I mean? They put in place. When I packed in, they're really helpful with me and put me down an education route, and they helped me through my degree and stuff. So I'm very, very grateful for them. You know what I mean? They put me on a path and give me a platform to go into another life. Where at 14, 15, as a young lad, you probably think you're beyond help, or probably think that it's the worst thing in the world. And you know what I mean? Where do you go from? You're still at school and you're not good enough, you know what I mean? Your friends are still playing football and you're seeing them making it, and you know what I mean? Do you still carry on at football at a level and try and build yourself back up, or do you pack it all together because you think you're not good enough? And it's a really tough one, you know what I mean? I don't think parents help. I think parents put a lot of pressure on the kids and want their kids to make it because they didn't. And then you know what I mean? It's the guidance they get when they haven't made it. Also, you know what I mean, that my brother was a professional footballer before me, so I was always under pressure to make it, because he'd made it. He was 2 years older than me, so he was a YTS before I was a YTS. He was a professional before I was a pro. He'd made his debut before I'd made my debut, so I was always following his footsteps, and that was a difficult thing to do. You know what I mean? I ended up playing at a higher level than he did, but it was difficult for me. I found that transition difficult from leaving school to try and emulate what he was doing, and you know what I mean. It was also easy because I knew what was coming next. Where if you didn't know what the situation was as trying to be a footballer, you're going into it blind, and all of a sudden you go in the manager's office and you're not wanted anymore, you're not needed, you're not good enough, and I can imagine that's the hardest thing in the world is for a 14, 15, 16-year-old to handle, because like you say, you know, I mean, you've been there since 6, 7-year-olds, you don't know anything else, and clubs have a responsibility to educate and guide them into another way of life, if that's education or if that's another qualification, or I don't know what the answer is, but for me, they've got a responsibility to do it. And you know what I mean, if that's the Football Association or UEFA or something, even another organisation, then something's got to be done, because there's too many kids dropping out of the game and probably packing in at a younger age than carrying on at non-league or semi-pro or lower league football. That there's got to be accessible for them to get back into football at some level, because they're obviously good enough, because that's why the clubs have kept them for that long. So it's just difficult for parents and for themselves to get dropped at that age.
Yeah, and I think, funnily enough, one of the suggestions or the things which Willie said was that is if the clubs and the coaches prepare those players as they're going up through the ages and say, look, we just want to develop you, help you have different tools to improve you as a human being, improve you as a person, make you a better footballer, and there's a very, very small chance that you're going to go on to be a footballer. Mm. If you've heard that every year, at the assessments and things like this, and then at 15 you get dropped, it's a very different feeling to being the star player or one of the star players in the team all the way up through the age groups, being built up as like, yeah, you're playing for us, and then being dropped without much explanation. I think that's a bit different. But like say, how many people, and this is what Tracy, the sports psychologist said, was a lot of these kids then they just drop out completely. They don't want to play football. They don't want to know. Yeah. And obviously 15, 16 is a difficult age anyway. Yeah. And I mean, so it's like, how many of those kids who drop out completely could play at a lower league or a non-league or go into coaching or physio or whatever. There's
Well, they can
60.
still earn a good living as well. They could still earn a good living, part-time football, getting a job at the end of it. You know what I mean? And they don't know where that's gonna end up. You know what I mean? You see some fairy tale clubs who getting the FA Cup third round and make a name for themselves and then getting a move, or they're going to the League of Wales. And I look at some of the TNS players in the League of Wales and they're playing in the Champions League. You know what I mean? Craig Harrison, my ex-teammate of mine was manager. There's an endless road somewhere. You know what I mean? There's a level for everybody, and it just needs to. Clubs have a responsibility though for me to find the players' clubs, and just because they're not good enough for a Cardiff City, and Middlesbrough, Manchester City, and Man United, there's still other football clubs like Hartlepool United, where Willie went, like Newport County, you know what I mean, like Swansea City, you know what I mean, the lesser clubs, you know what I mean, there's always lesser clubs for teams to go to, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, though. Anyway.
No. I just said it was a lesser club, but that was about it.
Good man. So go on then. Well, let's move over towards your career. So you started with Middlesbrough. It was your hometown club.
Yeah, I left. Same thing. So I signed for Middlesbrough when I was 14. We had it wasn't scholarships, sort of quite close. It was a schoolboy form. So I signed schoolboy forms at 14. We had games every weekend. We trained once or twice a week, which was great. It was the same group of lads. We had about 14, 15 players, but we were all aiming to be in that golden 10 when we were 16 years old to get YTS, because they told us all the way through there was only going to be 10 signed. So that 14, 15, 16 group of lads was going to get filtered down to 10 for 10 players, and you wanted to be in that 10, you know what I mean, whatever, by hook or by crook, you know what I mean. So when you left school, you just needed to be in that group, and thankfully when I left school on I think on the Friday, and I was back into full-time football by the time Monday morning it came in at 9 o'clock, so on July the 1st, which was a fantastic feeling for me personally.
All right, and I mean, it must have been, like it's every boy's dream, isn't it, to play for their hometown club as well. So I mean, are you from Middlesbrough? Yeah, you are, aren't you?
Yeah, Middlesbrough born and bred. Yeah, you know what I mean. People say that, I don't know, cliche about playing for your hometown club, but there was no prouder person for me. Every time I pulled that red shirt on, if it was for a schoolboy, into my YTS days, you know what I mean, training every day, because I grew up watching the Boro at Ayson Park, you know. So when I went in my first day at YTS, straight into Ayson Park gate, and it was just like starstruck, you know what I mean. I was cleaning boots of my heroes who I watched on the terraces the years, felt 5 years previously, 6 years previously. I'm training with them, with these guys, you know what I mean, having conversation, having dinner with them. It was just the best feeling in the world. It wasn't just the football side of it; it was the social side of it, the growing up. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Quite quickly, you had to. You didn't have a choice. You know what I mean? You're training with adults. You're not a child anymore. You're thrown into an adult environment, and it was just the best thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, my friends are asking questions because I'm still a local lad. I'm still living in the area. You know, I knew team selections before everybody else. I knew new signings would come in. You know what I mean? You could see people coming on the training grounds. You know what I mean? The football club at the time when I joined in '96 was evolving massively. You know what I mean? Brian Robson had took over the year before, and some of the players, because it was the first Premier League season that I joined, we just moved into the new stadium. You know what I mean? That the club was taking off, and to be a Middlesbrough lad was just the best feeling in the world. And luckily enough, at the end of that season, I made my debut at 16, just before the end of the season. You know what I mean? Dream comes true. You know, people say about it was far more than that. You know, because I never thought in my wildest dreams I would make my debut that early. You know, I had a dream that I wanted to play for my football club and for my hometown club, and to tick that dream off at 16 years old was just surreal, and no one can ever take that away from me.
No, I can only imagine. Like I played like to sort of just under academy level.
Yeah,
it was like pretty good, but not quite good enough. But like my older boy has played for the Cardiff development team a couple of times, and like even just watching him in a Cardiff City strip play, like it's so like you're so proud, like just seeing it and you're taking pictures and that. So like I can only imagine, you know, like 16 is 2 years older than my boy making your debut is mad. So with your, before we go to that debut, actually, something you said which struck me then was the about cleaning the boots and the terraces and stuff like that. Obviously, these days, I think a lot of that's going out of the game, particularly, you know, at the higher levels.
I don't think any of the scholars do it now. I don't think, you know, I mean, we used to go into 9 o'clock we used to be used to have to be ready for there 9 o'clock dressed. We would do jobs before training, so we'd make sure the boots were clean for we all had 2 pros to clean. Mine was Janino's and Gary Walsh's, the goalkeeper from Man United, and I'd make sure both of their lads' kits were out, the boots were out, everything was in place where they sat in the changing room. They'd go training, we'd go training at the same time. They'd come back in. I'd put their kit ready to wash. I'd clean the boots again for the next day. I'd clean the changing room. We sweep the floors. We collect the balls in. We clean the balls in the bath. Wouldn't be a job which was nice, but we had to do it. It was just part of growing up, and it was we did it for 2 years, and as a footballer, it was probably one of the happiest times as a young player, because it grounds you, it grows you, it makes you grow up. But it's so much fun as well, because there's 20 other or 19 other lads doing it with you, and it's such a good laugh, really good.
Do you think they should still do it? Because I think
100%, especially boots, because I think it gives you responsibility, and I think when you do make it later on in your career, I think it makes you realise and have a good grounding that what you've done and where you've been through, because it brings you closer together with other players as well. And that I'd ask Janino if he wanted his studs, wanted his mouldies, what did he want? Did he want anything else? It's a conversation between a superstar footballer and a young YTS who just wants to. You're in awe of these kind of players, but by 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're not scared about going and having a conversation. You're then teammates, you can have a laugh and a joke, and it's just it makes you grow up, both on and off the pitch, and then when you do kind of play with these kind of players that they know you know them, and I think it's the right way to do it. I'm not saying to do everything what we used to do, because I think some of the jobs, will take other roles from other people, cleaners and stuff, and take other responsibilities. But I think cleaning boots is not just the kitman's responsibility and job anymore. It's a collective thing, and we still had a kitman who did all that, but we still got all the boots and kit ready for our own 2 players.
Yeah, and I think it builds character as well, doesn't it? And
yeah, of course.
What you don't want is 16-year-olds thinking that because they've signed professionally, they've made it.
They've made it. Yeah.
Because that's gonna bring not necessarily a bad attitude, but that could influence how hard they work on the field. Because whereas if it's like your apprenticeship basically, it's like YTS, like it was, wasn't it? It was YTS. But so when did they stop doing that, or when did most clubs stop doing that?
I think it must have been probably 2000 plus. Because we're still doing it when I they probably didn't do it at Cardiff that much. So it's probably about 2000ish, 2001, 2002. But go back to you were just on about my debut. So my debut, it brought me down to earth then, because I had 96. So we played Sheffield Wednesday at home. It was bank holiday weekend. It was Good Friday. We played Sheffield Wednesday at home live on Sky. I didn't know I was going to be involved. My mum and dad had a phone call from Brian Robson to tell me that I was going to be sub, which they kept from me, which was fine by me at the time. It obviously saved the nerves. So I went there to do jobs with the kitman, like it was my turn. So I got all the kit ready with him. Went upstairs for a pre-match meal, like we always used to do. When we helping the kitman, so all the players were having the team talk, and the gaffer named the team, named the sub, named me as one of the 5 subs, and I was just like. I was gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked. He came over and asked me if I was all right, and told me not to be nervous. That he would only bring me on if he needed me to. The plan wasn't to bring me on. Obviously, he was trying to make me feel better. I think the plan all along was, as long as we were winning, to get me on as long as he possibly could. The game was 3-1. We scored the 3rd goal with about 10, 12 minutes to go, and he told me to get me kit off, that I was going to go on, and the ball took about 4 or 5 minutes to go out of play. And eventually the ball went out. He threw me on for 7-8 minutes, and I was just, I was made up. I got some decent touches of the ball. I could see friends and family in the stadium. It was a sellout, 38,000, and it was just, it was the best thing in the world. Finished the game. After the game, straight in the change room, the lads having a shower, and there's me doing my jobs after the game, sweeping the floor, collecting kit in, cleaning boots, and it just brings you back. I knew I hadn't made it. I just played in the Premier League, which was absolutely fantastic. But then I'm doing jobs straight away with the kit man. And, I remember my mum and dad were waiting outside saying, "Where have you been? All the players that came out ages ago." I said, I've been doing my jobs like I always had to do, and you know what I mean. Mum, Dad said, oh yeah, good. So you should, you know what I mean. You haven't made it yet as a player, you know what I mean. You still got loads of hard work to do, and I knew, you know, I had a good family behind me, a good lot of friends who knew exactly what I wanted to do. But at the same time, I knew that there was a responsibility which I had to do, and just because I played in the Premier League there, that I still wasn't doing jobs. That I knew that the kitman needed me to do my job, and then we moved on to bigger and better things, and full debut, which happened the week after and stuff. But it was just that game brought me back down to earth. But I remember sweeping the floor thinking, I've just played in the Premier League. I'm 16 years old. I've just played in the Premier League in front of all my family and friends. It just didn't get any better.
Yeah, and you know, there's not many players who make their debut that young. You know, at the general age. I know there's no hard and fast rule, but I mean, you know, it's generally like 17, 18, 19 in the first team, and like, you know, there's obviously a few which you're in the elite company really for the 16-year-old debut.
Yeah, well, there's some really good names who are ahead of me. You know what I mean? There's that's what Declan Rice and Jose Baxter and a few of the West Ham lads, and you know, it's nice to be on that kind of a list. You know what I mean? Every time it comes on Sky Sports, you know what I mean, I seem to get lower and lower, which I'm not bothered about. You know what I mean? No one can ever take my age away, but people get younger and younger because people want players to excel and do it even quicker. And you know, if you the old saying, if you're good enough, you're old enough, and you know, Brian Robson thought I was, but thought I was good enough. So I'm just glad that I got the opportunity to play.
Yeah, there's some seal of approval, mine, didn't it? Brian Robson, you know, is you know, one of the best central midfielders the Premier League's ever seen, or the British League has ever seen.
Yeah.
So if,
yeah,
you know,
well,
if he thinks,
I think it was even better because it's come from the Alex Ferguson mould that, you know what I mean, that he's brought through the class of '92, and then Brian Robson brought through probably over the next 3 or 4 years a class of probably 7 or 8, maybe 10 youngsters which got that football club, you know what I mean, along with some world class players. But we did the job what he asked us to do, and you know what I mean, he had faith in the young lads, and you know what I mean, obviously he was brought up by the best manager probably the world's ever seen in Alex Ferguson. So you know, he was brought up from the good cloth anyway.
yeah, and I mean Middlesbrough, you know, like you say, he was a club who was on the rise at that point. They had some unbelievable players. You had like, it's a very, very good squad. So you played about 50 odd games for Middlesbrough, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so starting in the Premier League, played a lot of games. Not the year after I made my debut, but the year after that, I started a lot more games. I think I probably played 20 games in the Premier League, and but then the year after I made my debut, I think it was the Carling Cup. I scored my first goal in the Carling Cup against Sunderland, which was at the Riverside again. An amazing feeling from my hometown club to score for my hometown club, but to do it in a local derby at the Riverside was fabulous, you know. But yeah, FA Cup games, Premier League games, and it fundamentally helped me make my under-21 debut as well. So you know what I mean, it was a high-profile club at the time that, like you say, you know what I mean, we had Fabrizio Ravanelli, Alan Boksic, Emerson Janino, Gianluca Festa. You know, we had some world-class footballers. Paul Merson come through that revolving door. And it helped me grow up and help me become a better footballer for sure.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, you had some unbelievable players, and they won some silverware as well over that period.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
did, yeah.
You know, it wasn't just a case of having a good team who played some decent football. They won trophies as well.
Yeah,
you know,
Well, they performed on the pitch. We got the Wembley finals quite a lot. You know, I know they got relegated. They were up and down. You know what I mean? But we, like I said, the revolving door can be difficult at times to create that team spirit on the pitch and off the pitch. And you know, I mean, the manager had it in abundance to get the right players at the right time, and seemed to lose a world class player, but then seemed to bring in a better one, which you know probably only Brian Robson can do.
Yeah. Does it surprise you that he never went on to manage much after that?
I always thought he would have managed his country. I always thought he would have been England manager. I always thought he had it in him. You know what I mean? When he was Terry Venables as assistant manager at Euro '96, I thought it was a natural progression. So when he was Middlesbrough manager, that for me he would have progressed on and been England manager. But I don't know if it was just timing or you know what I mean, what he didn't want to do. You know, I know he's very content and happy being Man United ambassador. You know what I mean? So left Middlesbrough, went back to Man United, and you know what I mean. Sometimes it's what people want or the pressure they don't want, but. You know what I mean? I know things didn't end in Middlesbrough the way that he wanted to, and Steve McLaren came in and took his job. But you know that club he made them expectations. He made that club what it is now today. You know what I mean? The stadium got built because of him. You know what I mean? The players that he brought through the door. So you know what I mean, that football club will be nothing without Brian Robson. And I think supporters hopefully will remember him for the good times and not probably the final season. Hopefully.
Indeed. So yeah, you see, he played 50 odd games for Boro. He scored a few goals, most notably, like you say, against Sunderland. He scored against Man United in a FA Cup victory as well, which obviously
scored two against Man United that season. We scored. We beat Man United in the FA Cup, and we played them on a Monday night at the Riverside. We got beat 4-3, and I was lucky enough to score the first goal. And it's just. When people ask me what my favourite goal is, and it's hard to explain because you grow up and you want to play against Man United, you want to score against Man United, you want to score your first goal in a local derby, and it's all goals what I have scored that they're so special in just different ways because they're all different. You can't compare them. You can't compare two goals. It's just a difficult question. So difficult.
So from Middlesbrough, then I think you came on loan down to Cardiff first, didn't you? And then you signed for 1 million.
Yeah.
To the mighty Bluebirds, and obviously when you came to us, we were a club who was being revitalised. Ourselves under Sam and Man, things were kicking off, and starting to go in the right direction. So, did you take much convincing to come down here, or were you interested straight away, or? It must have been a big change moving from your hometown.
Yeah, it was. Well, things weren't going fantastic at Middlesbrough at the time. Steve McLaren took over, so things were a bit edgy and a bit touchy at the time. And I remember Lenny Lawrence. He rang me on. I think he rang me on the Wednesday, and said that the club were interested. He was director of football at the time because it was Alan Cork was the manager. And then Corky rang me on the Friday and said he was extremely interested in bringing me on loan on Monday. That didn't materialise that week because it was FA Cup on the Saturday. They beat Leeds 2-1, which was a fantastic. I watched it on the TV on the Sunday. It was one of the best games I've seen. The atmosphere was great, and straight away, you know what I mean. I was on the phone to my agent on Monday morning, wanting to push the move through. It didn't happen that week. I rang Corky rang me again on the Friday. They were driving down to Wigan. For an away fixture. I think they got beat 4-0. He lost his job on the way home, and straight away I thought, there's my luck. You know what I mean? I'd organised a move with two people that I've got full respect for. I knew them both really well, and then Lenny rang me on the Sunday morning. I was very, very disappointed because obviously Alan lost his job, and Lenny said that he was going to be taking over, and he was really interested in me coming down. They were playing Huddersfield on the Tuesday night, and he wanted me to make my debut and play on the Tuesday at Huddersfield. So I was made up. So I drove down to Huddersfield on the Monday night to stay in the hotel with. I shared a room with Peter Thorne. Woke up Tuesday morning. It was raining from 9 o'clock in the morning till we got to the ground on Tuesday night, and game got called off, which was my luck at the time. And then I was drove back to Middlesbrough to drive back to Cardiff to make my debut the following weekend at Northampton.
Yeah, Peter Thorne, one of the most underrated footballers to ever play for Cardiff. I think I think he's quality.
Yeah, he was different class. He was. I think he was the kind of centre forward that the club needed. He was a target man, but he had a good touch. He scored goals. He brought people into the game. And he was an all round genuine lovely fellow as well. He was on and off the pitch. You know what I mean? When he crossed that white line, he was competitive, but off the pitch, he was just a lovely family man and just got on with everybody.
Yeah, he was. He was really good with the fans as well. You know, if you ever saw him around Cardiff or whatever, he had just all the time in the world to speak to people, take pictures or whatever it may be. And I mean, sign autographs more than pictures probably then.
Yeah.
No camera phones so much then, was there?
No.
So, yeah, so like I said, you came in obviously under Salman. That was a good game to watch just before you move, actually, the Leeds game, wasn't it? Just to get a taste for it.
I think it was a Salman factor as well. You know what I mean? I'd heard some stories. Dean Gordon had just been on loan at the time just before me from Middlesbrough. And I don't think Dino had a very good time at Cardiff. And I remember him coming back, and I told him that I'd agreed with Lenny Lawrence I was going to go down, and he said, he didn't fill me full of confidence about some of the things he was saying, but you know what I mean. I was I think my time was up at Middlesbrough at the time with Steve McLaren, so and I needed a fresh move. You know what I mean. I obviously knew Cav from Middlesbrough days. Another couple of lads I'd been acquainted with. Knew Paul Brayson from his Newcastle days. Knew Des Hamilton from his Newcastle days. Knew Ian Butterworth. Knew obviously Lenny. You know what I mean. So it made sense for me. It was a perfect move at the perfect time. So a loan was an ideal opportunity for me to see what I liked about the club, and also for the club and the fans to see what they liked about me. And you know what I mean. I was really happy with my football. You know, I scored in my debut against Northampton. Scored 2 in a home game the week after against Blackpool. Scored a hat trick against Oldham, I think 10 days later, and it just took off for me. And it was just, and I'm a firm believer. If you're happy on the pitch, you're happy off the pitch. And I loved my football again. And it just, you know what I mean. It was a right move at the right time. And I just wish that maybe I could have done it a couple of weeks earlier, so I could have maybe helped Corky keep his job, or I could have played in the Leeds game. But it happened, and you know what I mean. I was pleased to be part of something what potentially was going to be special. And obviously we didn't make the progress that we wanted to that season. We got beaten in the playoff semi-final by Stoke City. The better side over 2 legs because they beat us, you know, and it was a horrible couple of games really. But yeah. But the way we went up the year after made up for it, you know. So it was people go on about playoffs, and you know there's got to be winning or loser. And I think only if you've been involved in the playoffs and being a loser, I think you appreciate being a winner, and then you realise that what happens to the loser as well, because it's you know what I mean. In the semi-final and the final, it's a horrible place to be in. Horrible.
Yeah, no. Well, we will get there now. I just wanted to ask you a couple of other stuff first. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and I asked Willie this, and I'm going to ask Cav this next week when I speak to him, is if you've got any funny stories about Sam Aman in your time there, because he's got a reputation for being a little unorthodox at times. Yeah, go on.
Well, I was a little bit worried when I first went, because everyone said that Sam used to take them out for a meal and make them eat certain things. So when I went to Cardiff, I was supposed to go on the Tuesday, so I went up on the Thursday. Lenny and Sam met me in my hotel on the Friday. We went out for a meal, and that was when I was worried. So I was told, I got a phone call saying that car's going to pick you up outside the hotel. You're going to go meet Sam and Man and Lenny Lawrence at a restaurant. Straight away, I was panicking, thinking, oh, where are we going? What am I going to eat? What am I going to be made to do? And went there, and it was such a relaxed atmosphere. He didn't make me do anything what I was expecting. This crazy gang persona which I'd heard. When I went back to the hotel, and first thing when my dad rang, he said, how was your night? Did you meet the chairman? What did he make you do? And I was like, nothing. Honestly, nothing. He didn't make me do anything. I don't know if I was a little bit relieved or disappointed. I had heard some stories, and Cav might be able to fill you in with something more funny than I've just said that. But no, it was fabulous for me. You know, the walking around the ground during the game was something new to me. But it was such a refreshing thing to watch, and it got the crowd going if the game wasn't going the way that the players wanted it to. And you know, I mean, I know obviously the FA got involved and banned him from doing it, but what harm was he doing? You know what I mean? He was interacting with his own supporters. You know what I mean? And I don't see anything wrong with it. You know what I mean? It's obviously not a chairman thing to do, and everything's executive box this, executive box that. But you know what I mean? For me, he was old school, and he was brought up by the crazy gang, and he wanted to bring that to a new football club. And you know what I mean? He certainly got involved within the changing room and brought the players together with the rest of the staff, and you know what I mean, and the fans alike, because he just wanted us all to be one united group, and I think we were, and I think we showed that on the pitch.
Yeah, I think he brought the club together. I mean, I know, you know, Cardiff fans now have got different views of him because of some stuff which happened, towards the end and after he left. Yeah. But I mean, at that time, he brought everyone together. He brought people back to, to the crowd, to the, to the stadium to watch. He got the crowds were up. He got the players and the crowd was working together. There was more access to the players than before for things like autographs and, waiting out ground. Maybe in the months prior to sort of him coming in, the players would have been like one autograph and gone. After the games, which is fair enough, especially if the results are not great. You don't feel like staying and signing a load of autographs, but everything just felt very together.
But I think he was very very united and wanted. He told us quite regular how important supporters were and how important that the changing room was, and you can win a lot within this group, within the changing room, it's not just about the pitch, it's about coming together as a group, that included the fans as well, because I saw a passion of supporters which I'd never seen before. When I came up to South Wales, it was so passionate, home and away, a different supporter way, but the following was in its droves, and it's thousands, and every away trip was a long trip, and for Cardiff fans to still go every single journey in the numbers they did was just amazing. And I think Sam wanted us to appreciate that, because win, lose or draw, we always used to go over to the fans, and it wasn't always a good reception, but yourself, if you tried your best, supporters will have your back. And and I think especially that year and the year before, supporters knew that we tried our best, and win, lose or draw, we were together, and we did our best, and sometimes we just didn't get the result that we should have or needed or deserved, but the fans knew that we tried our best.
Yeah, and I just say about the crowd, like obviously you watched the Leeds game on TV. Rio Ferdinand said afterwards that it was more hostile than Galatasaray, Galatasaray away. So I mean, the fans were very passionate and very loud, still are. Ninian Park particularly was, it was a special place, and I can't talk about it too long; it'll upset me.
Yeah, but I don't. You can't recreate that atmosphere, though, so can you? You can't. No. You know what I mean? I said that when Middlesbrough left Ayresome Park to go to the Riverside, that you've got the Holgate end behind the goal where the atmosphere was, where my dad used to take me, and then all of a sudden you're sitting in the stand in comfy seats with zero atmosphere, and there's no togetherness. There might be more people there, but it's like
same as it.
Such a depressing part of football, the way that it's taking this atmosphere away, and it's more of a business. But hopefully one day that things might be able to evolve a little bit back towards the way that football used to be. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully safe standing will come in.
Yeah,
and I think that will be a big part of hopefully getting the atmospheres back in grounds.
Yeah, I think so.
And like the one thing they've done at Cardiff now is they've moved the most vocal part of the crowd away from the away fans. So you don't get the banter back and forth. And don't get me wrong, at times it can be a bit hostile and a bit touchy. But generally, like what makes the atmosphere is the banter back and forth as the goals are going in, or the mistakes are happening, or whatever it may be. Yeah. And by moving them to opposite ends of the ground, in a bigger ground, it just takes something away from the overall atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree.
So who was the first person you met at Cardiff other than Lenny Lawrence and Sam McMahon?
It was a lad I got really close to when I was at Cardiff. So Gethin Jones. So I met Geth when I went to Ninian Park. Went for a cup of coffee just while paperwork and things were getting done, and he was there with Michael Simpkins, and they were really good friends together. And it was nice to meet a couple of younger players who, who wanted to try and break into that first team, and but because I knew I was there to do the job, to be a big player, and I was at the time it was probably a different scale to what they were there to do for the football club, but it was nice and refreshing to see some younger players, before I seen the first team the next day.
Yeah, obviously you came in, you were highly rated, £1 million, was quite a lot of money for a second division club at the time.
Yeah.
And obviously, like Stoke, this, like you mentioned before, the season before we went up, the Stoke game was really bitter pill to swallow because we'd had a really good season.
Yeah.
And it just to fall at that sort of last hurdle, we'd come close as well, close to the playoffs, and just sort of missed out in the seasons before. I think it was the season before. I think we just missed out on the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, you know, my memory's not great, mind, but obviously we've lost to Stoke over 2 legs. And like you say, generally over 2 legs, the better team will win.
I think it's just the way that game went. You know what I mean? We went to Stoke, and the game wasn't great. You know what I mean? We won 2-1. You know what I mean? We played at home, and I remember they scored a free kick last. I think it was 88th minute. You know what I mean? Which took the game into extra time, and then they scored again just before penalties. And it was the timing. I think the timing of the goals were probably the killer. You know what I mean? But there was no thing on effort. There was nothing on commitment or quality. It was just the game was so nervous and so on edge. You know what I mean? That I think the next year we then realised how to deal with that situation and how to get over the line, especially the Bristol City games. You know what I mean? Because there were similar games to the Bristol City to the Stoke City games, but we managed to see both games out in a better manner.
Yeah, and I think the playoffs is really tense. It's not very often you see the playoffs semi-finals. You know, you don't very often see like a 3-0 and then a 4-0, or they're always close and tetchy and tense. Yeah. So I definitely think that the experience of the Stoke disappointment meant that the players seemed to be easy or more capable, maybe, or just be able to deal with the pressure the following season.
Yeah,
you know, better, like you say. So, okay, let's talk about the game. For me, this is one of my most memorable nights out ever because it sort of had been on the beers most of the day. I spent the majority of the day like in the pub, but I was on the phone constantly trying to get my little brother a ticket.
All right, okay.
We managed to get him a ticket like right at the last minute. I don't know how close, but you know, it was very touch and go for a bit, and we managed to get sort of two tickets elsewhere in the ground, which were a better position, and they were like on the halfway line in the middle. So I was like, right, I'll have the 2 tickets on the middle. So I went and sat there with my mate, and I gave the other 2 to my brother and one of the other boys. But it was like just a great day, and it was again close game, really close, and it went to extra time.
Yeah,
and just you sort of breaking through, and where you've hit it and it's looping over the keeper, it's like slow motion. It's sort of going over, and I'm sat on the halfway line right behind you. So me and my mate were just looking, and the ball's going over, and it's just like seemed to take forever to drop for the keeper.
I know that feeling. It was. I think it's all. And I've spoken to Chris Day, the goalkeeper, about it. You know, what I mean, we had a conversation. I think it was about 2 years after I seen him on holiday, and it was I think he said, if I'd hit it too sweet, you know what I mean, and I knew when I hit it was going in because it just looped at the right time, and you know what I mean. I don't think he got anything to it, you know what I mean. It was inch perfect. That when I hit it, I knew it was in, and it was the noise. It was the noise what got me after that. It was the delirium and how ecstatic, you know, and the players. I just remember being at the bottom of the pile. And that was it. I couldn't tell you what happened after that goal for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? It was like somebody brought me off and I was sat somewhere else because I can't remember the thing about it. You know what I mean? I remember the final whistle and that's about it. So for the next 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes, you know what I mean? I've seen the video and I watched the game and I've seen me running around, but I can't remember it. I can't recall what happened and I can't remember touching the ball again. And it's just the most surreal thing because, you know what I mean? 5 minutes is a long time in your life to not remember, and especially when you've watched it over and over again. And you know what I mean? You're waiting for that whistle. You want the whistle to come, and you know what I mean? They're piling the pressure on, and you don't want to take a penalty. You don't want to lose in the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. Everything was written in the stars. You know what I mean? And for we spoke about this. You know what I mean? That there's the one thing we can't do is lose. We've come too far that year, and we learned a really bad lesson the year before against Stoke City. We could not fall. You know what I mean? Bristol, QPR have had a good season. We beat them twice. We beat them quite comfortably down at Loftus Road 4-0. You You know what I mean? And things didn't work out the way that we expected him to on the day. You know what I mean? Because Ernie ran right at the Loftus Road, but Danny Shearer and Clark Carlisle marking really well, and it just wasn't his game. And I remember the reaction of the fans when I came on, because they were all very shocked that Ernie had been brought off. He'd scored 37, 38 goals that season, and you know what I mean. He was the only player which was probably expected to score in the game, and rightly so. So the reaction was quite shocked, and when I came on, and I had a point to prove. You know, because I'd been injured previously about 3 weeks before. I'd had an operation on my groin, so I was touch and go if I was going to make the game, and but it was such a surreal feeling to be able to be the person who scored the goal. You know what I mean? And I remember speaking after the game to a couple of people, and people said you don't realise what you've done, and people will never forget. And my reaction is, of course they'll forget. You know what I mean? Give it a year or two or a few years. What we 16 years down the line, and I've been back a couple of times, and it's probably more spoke about now than it was when it happened. And I never thought that would happen. And you know what I mean? People have a great memory, and I'll never forget how nice people have been about it, because it's just, you know what I mean, to both me and my family, because it's just I was doing my job at the time, and I didn't realise how many lives I'd made happy that day. And you know what I mean, like you said, the night out, I think we went out on the Tuesday, because that game was a Sunday, and I didn't have to put my hand in my pocket once all day. I think we started drinking at 12 o'clock, and I remember not finished on Wednesday 5 a.m, and I didn't buy a drink all day and all night. It was just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was a long few days after that.
It was a bank holiday weekend, and I think it lasted about a week and a half.
Yeah, God, I would just remember being outside the City Arms, because it was just opposite the stadium, and just, I don't even know what time. I think I vaguely remember going home to my mum's like something like 6 a.m. in the morning, and she's like getting ready to go out, like, and going about a day, like, but just literally just sat outside the City Arms, drinking beer, singing songs. It was just an incredible day, and it's one which I'll always remember. And it, like you say, it did feel a bit like it was written in the stars, with the failure the year before, and then the final at the Millennium Stadium, we'd comfortably beaten QPR. So you're thinking, this is it now. You know, it's in Cardiff. We've beaten them easy up in Loftus Road. And like you say, the game was a bit more tense and tetchy, as a lot of finals are. But yeah, so obviously you've played with some quality players during your time at all your clubs, but particularly at Cardiff, there was some really, really good players during your time there.
Yeah.
Who think who was the best player you've ever played alongside, or who was the best player you've ever played alongside, and who's the best player you played alongside at Cardiff?
I think the best player I played alongside in my career has got to be Juninho. You know, I mean, especially the first time he came. You know, Brazilian international, he had a lot. You know what I mean? Like the words world-class footballer is branded about quite easily nowadays, because there are that many. But I think I'm going back to 96, 97, 98. He was world class, and if he was in the Premier League now, he would certainly fit in this Man City mould or Liverpool mould, and you know what I mean. And he would be Champions League, and I'd be disappointed if he didn't win the Champions League. He was that good. But going on to City, this man in particular, I thought he had a lot, and I watched him. I watched him closely once playing for Wales. I'm letting him say Danny Gabidon, and Wales played Italy. I think it was in the Euro qualifier. They beat them 2-1, and Gabs marked Del Piero out of the game quite comfortably. You know what I mean? He's a League One player marking one of the Champions League's best ever players out of the game really easily, and he had the lot. He was good in the air. He was comfortable on the ball. He was so quick. It was scary. Football just looked so easy for him, and it wasn't a surprise to me when you see him make that step up to the Premier League. And if it wasn't for some long-term injuries for Gabs, he would have gone even. For me, certainly would have gone even higher, because he had a lot and more. You know what I mean? He was. But not just that, he was a lovely, genuinely nice lad off the pitch as well. He had the lot, and you know that if he'd have been playing in the Welsh squad for the last Euros, you know what I mean, if he was that age, you know what I mean, that would have made him even better, even stronger, because he was that good. And you know, Wales was so close to achieving something in that Euros, and you know what I mean. You look at the players from previous years who could have made them even better if there was a Bellamy or a Danny Gabidon, or that it's fine margins, and you know what I mean. Gabs was that good who could make that difference. But yeah, for me it was and don't get me wrong, Robert Earnshaw, James Collins, Graham Kavanagh, Peter Thorne. You know what I mean. We had some excellent players, but he stood out a mile for me because he was that good.
I always say about Danny Gabardon is that if he hadn't had the injuries he'd had, he was capable of being similar to Rio Ferdinand.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Could have played for a top club, and they were exactly, just like a Rolls Royce of a defender, as it were, to use a cliche.
Yeah, he was.
What was your biggest regret at Cardiff?
I missed an important penalty against Leeds United, which was bad timing, bad judgment. I wouldn't say it was a regret. Everyone makes mistakes. It was a genuine football error. I wouldn't say I had a regret, really, because I signed at the right time. I probably left at the right time, so I enjoyed my time there. There was no real regret. Me and Dave Jones didn't see eye to eye, but that was from both sides, and he didn't think I was a very good player, so I moved on. That was as simple as it was. It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a regret. I wish things probably would. I think I would have liked to leave under better circumstances in maybe in a better way. But that's football, and I still love the city, love the football club. So it hasn't stopped that at all.
So, what's the craziest thing you've ever witnessed or experienced during your career?
Oh, good question. Craziest thing I've witnessed. Oh God, put me on the spot. I'd For me personally, it's probably the surrealness of playing for my country and playing with world class players. You know what I mean? That I played with Steven Gerrard, Michael Owen. People have won Champions League. People won the Ballon d'Or. You know what I mean? So for me, the weirdest thing is to be on that pitch, ready to start a football match in Spain for the World Cup qualifier with Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand, Emile Heskey, Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard. You know what I mean? And I'm on this team photo. So for me, it's the weirdest thing. Looking back in my career now, that happened. You know what I mean? That a local boy from Middlesbrough who ended up playing in the same kind of team as some of these world class footballers was just the craziest and the maddest thing I could ever imagine.
Yeah, so you played with England. That must have been like same as your Middlesbrough debut. It must have been something so surreal, and just like I say, it must be so much pride in that. How many caps did you make?
Well, I got 621 caps, and I made my first debut. I made my debut at the Riverside. So I didn't know if I was only there because I was a Middlesbrough player to get the crowd in. You know what I mean? So I played that game. We played Slovakia, beat them 6-1. Set a couple of goals. I was quite happy with the way I played, and so I went back to training the next day at Middlesbrough and kept plugging away, kept working hard, and got my next cap. So then that's when I really thought that I'd earned it, because it wasn't at Middlesbrough, it was somewhere else. So then I felt a little bit more comfortable in what I was doing, and then got selected for the European Championships in the summer. Didn't go the way that we wanted them as a country, but still a great experience. You know what I mean? We got beat in the group stage and played against Italy, Slovakia, and Turkey, and it was to be away there with world class players and to play against world class players for 3 weeks was a great experience, and something that no one can take away. And the caps that I have got, no one can take away. You know what I mean? Because I've scored for my country, I played for my country, and it's just been. It was a really good time. It was obviously disappointing that I didn't end up making a full cap, but you know what I mean. I had Michael Owen ahead of me. I had Emile Heskey ahead of me. I had these kind of players were
sharing them. People like
went on to play for Alan Shearer. You know, and these kind of players, young players, went on to play bigger and better things with the likes of Alan Shearer and Sheringham and people like that. So you know what I mean. At the time, I was fighting a losing battle against those kind of world class players. So it was a difficult one, but fair play to them, lot.
Yeah, it must be. No one can take those caps off you, though, can they? That's the thing. And so in about around 2012, you dabbled in a bit of management, or so it says on your Wikipedia page.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
did.
true?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was still playing, and I thought a job came available, so I thought I'd apply, see if management suited me and I suited management. See if I was any good. And first season got relegated, but really enjoyed it and felt as though it wasn't a personal slant on my performance. I just thought it was circumstances, budgets and stuff. So talked to the chairman in the summer and outlaid my plans of what I wanted to do and to give me another season. He gave me another season. We got promoted. We won a cup. And I was quite pleased with where things went and decided to progress on and move up the ladder and go to a better team, which saved them from relegation. And but then you judged on results, you judged on performances, you judged on how the club's doing progression wise. And unfortunately, the year after, I ended up losing my job through just through results. And I'm not bitter, you know what I mean. It was maybe if I wasn't good enough, the players weren't good enough, but I would never come out directly and say you know what I mean. I picked the team, I bought the players, I did this, I did that, and it was a personal decision. And you know what I mean. It was a decision that I took well, and I'm waiting for the right opportunity to potentially get back into it.
Cool. That's good. Be good to see you back in and around the game. So, what have you been up to then? Since then, 2012, or since you stopped or since the last management job, should I say?
Well, football wise, I've got my boots back on. Just turned 40. I played all last season in local leagues, or what we semi-pro league, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it again this season because it was a bit of a struggle this season. Playing against 17, 18, 19-year-old lads is enjoyable up to probably a 65, 70-minute period, and then the last 20 minutes is a struggle. It was more of a social thing that I like the banter of the changing room, enjoy a pint after. But you know what I mean. I'm lucky around here that they do over 40s leagues and things. So that might be a way to stay in football a bit longer for me, because they play 80-minute games and everyone's a similar age, older than me now. So it's you know what I mean. I think that kind of level might be crying out. I just want to keep fit. I enjoy the social side. You know what I mean? I enjoy the banter of the changing room. So I want to try and play as long as I can. People say, when I retired the first time, people said you'll miss it too much, you'll want to get back into it. So I did. Then I retired again, missed it again. I wanted to get back in. So I think third time lucky. When I do retire eventually for the third time, that will be it. So I have said that to everybody, that next time I do retire, that I don't think that I'll be able to come back from that, because as I say, 40-year-old. Legs are still working. Brain works probably better than my legs, but I'm having to work 10 times as hard to get fitter than everybody else, which I'm not really enjoying doing. But needs must to try and keep my boots on for as long as I can, really.
Yeah, well, that's it. And then it's the social side of it as well, like you say, the banter and the just like the beers afterwards, and it's just keeping fit, keeping going. Yeah. It's only good things. Okay. So just after we do this, if you wouldn't mind just doing a 60-second quick fire questions, it'll take like a minute. Yeah. Then I can put it out as a short video. But I'll cut that little bit out now. Okay. Andy, so thanks so much, mate, for joining me. I really do appreciate you taking the time to speak to me. You're quite active on Twitter, so tell the people where they can find you on Twitter.
So I'm Andy Campbell 32 on Twitter, and I'm very honest on my Twitter, probably too honest. You know what I mean? Derby fans don't like me at the minute, obviously for me tweets about the snow last year. So it's a bit of humour, you know. I don't put things offensive on them. Quite light-hearted, you know. That I do. I do realise it's not real life as well. So but it's good fun, and as long as people take it light-hearted, then we can have some fun along the way.
Yeah, a bit of banter with the Swansea fans as well. I've seen.
It's got to be done. I hope they take it the right way as well, though, because it's like I say, football's not, you know what I mean. It's not life and death, you know what I mean. I know it's important and it's part of people's lives, but end of the day, when you see things like Paul Gascoigne and you know what I mean, I know there's rivalries between countries, England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland and whatnot, but this is real life, you know what I mean. And that's someone's dad, that's someone's husband, that's someone's son. you know what I mean, that things are more serious than someone trying taking a tweet far too seriously.
Absolutely. And yeah, like I say again about Gazza, I just really, really hope that someone can get hold of him or someone can get in touch with him and give him the help, support he needs. And I mean, whenever I do all the mental health shows on this, I say, if anyone is ever struggling with any sort of mental health issue, it's never too late. There's always people who will help you. There's always people who will listen, me included. My DMs are open always for people if they ever need a chat or whatnot. So, guys, you can follow us on Twitter, which is at ACEcast_nation. You can suggest show subjects, ask questions, take part in competitions on our Facebook page. Just search Ace Podcast Nation. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell to get notifications. You can also get all our shows for audio download on podcast.co or iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, all those good sites. Get involved by leaving us comments, interact with us on social media, tell us who you want us to speak to, and there's more shows and guests coming very soon. Cheers, Andy. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.